Today I present a motion to the Ohio Republican Party regarding financial audits. And we got an email this past week from Justin saying that there was going to be a review of the financial statements for the 4-year period from December or from 2017 until 2020. But a review is significantly different than a forensic audit. And what we need is a forensic audit. Right. So this resolution is to assure that management clearly understands and will, in fact, be required to do an audit. Whereas, and I'll read this resolution to you, whereas the financial statements for 2017 through 2020 presented by the ORP treasurer incorrectly recorded accounts receivable balances of $640,000. And whereas the chairman and treasurer wrote off these accounts receivable in 2021 without notice or explanation to either the Fiscal Review Committee or the State Central Committee.
Wow.
Whereas the subsequent May 24, 2021 accounts receivable memo that documented the approximately $640,000 was incorrectly reported as income or contributions in the profit and loss statements in the years ended 2017 and 2018. And whereas the financial records for 2017 indicate there was a $1.7 million reduction in retained earnings in the equity section, and such adjustments are not explained in the financial statements. Therefore, be it resolved that the Audit Committee and ORP Chairman are hereby directed to expand the scope of the audit procedures to include the financial statements for the years ended December 31st, 2017 and 18. Be it further resolved that the Audit and Fiscal Review Committees shall have at least one joint meeting with a CPA firm to review a draft of the audited financial statements and related documents. Be it further resolved that at the conclusion of the audit, all members of the State Central Committee shall be given a copy of the audited financial statements and related documents. I further move that the committee take action on directives in this motion and that this be voted on by a roll call vote.
We're dealing with a motion of a resolution, okay? And there's not a motion on the roll call vote, so the second is out of order. Is there further discussion on the resolution that's been presented?
I have a motion to refer to committee, Mr. Chairman.
The chair hears a motion to refer committee from Jim Simon.
I'll second.
And there's a second. There is a motion to refer Mark Bainbridge's resolution, which you've all had for 10 days, to refer that to the Audit Committee to come back with a report on that resolution at the next meeting of the State Executive and Central Committees. Okay? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Clearly, to the chair, the ayes have it. We will now consider a draft resolution submitted by Laura Rosenberger. The chair recognizes Laura to introduce the resolution. We can bring you a microphone. You don't have to come all the way up here, Laura.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of this fine committee, I am going to preface my proposal with a simple story of why we must require Chairman Producic to repair his breach of contract and obey the bylaws by returning the standing committees to their original membership established by former Chairman Jane Timken and requiring the standing committees to elect their own chairman. I respectfully ask you to listen to my reasons why it is imperative we honor our bylaws. As you know, we were assigned our committees in September 2020. I was honored that Jane appointed me to the Audit Committee and was excited to go to work right away and immediately requested an Audit Committee meeting with my esteemed colleagues Kurt Braden and Brad McLeod that month. To my surprise, Kurt declined and said we should wait until after the election. By the end of November, I requested another meeting with Kurt and Brad to learn more about the audit committee process and was especially interested in why the ORP had not audited in over 12 years, when an annual audit is clearly required by the bylaws. That second meeting request was met with failure as Brad and I were stood up. I grew concerned because the audit committee was supposed to report at the December meeting and not much was happening. In the meantime, our colleague Mark Bainbridge convinced Jane the ORP needed to obey the bylaws and have the required annual audit done by an independent CPA firm. Rob Seepower got the process going, and Jane invited Mark to our meetings as an advisor because of his professional experience as an auditor. By December, we voted on and approved 5 firms to consider, none of which were CLA, an unknown firm we never discussed. 2 days before Christmas, however, Rob slipped in CLA to the list unnoticed because of the holiday timing. From that point on, Mark was not invited to any more meetings, and in January, without him, we selected CLA knowing it had a conflict of interest with the Timken name. Then we got a new chair and nothing happened for a very long time. It was May and the audit was supposed to be done in June, so I asked for a copy of the CLA contract Chairman Paduchik signed with any supporting documentation to be sent to the entire audit committee. I was met with resistance, but I got the contract and requested a third meeting with the audit committee again, and was again denied that third meeting by Mr. Braden. Nothing happened over the summer with the exception that Mr. Bainbridge and I spoke with CLA, which is consistent with generally accepted accounting standards, and Chairman Paduchik chewed us out for doing so. When CLA terminated its contract, I was not told until everyone else learned of it at the September meeting. In October, like a lot of other members, in a retaliatory move by Chairman Paduchik, I was kicked off the audit committee for interfering with the audit. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the truth and is supported by the timeline, emails, and recording evidence I possess and can provide upon request. I keep meticulous records and have everything materially substantiated, including audio recordings of it all, because I was the bookkeeper for the Springfield Symphony Orchestra, a very old cultural nonprofit for several years, where I performed an annual independent audit with CPA firm Clark Schaefer Hackett. Based on my professional experience, I can tell you the 2017 Right Side Compliance Report is not an audit. It is a consulting report done by lawyers from a consulting company. Audits are lawfully mandated to be performed by CPAs from the CPA firm, and in 2017,
Laura,
it's
you can
definitely
speak in
not,
3 minutes.
so anyone calling it an audit either has not read it or is deceiving you. The cover page proves it.
Laura,
Ladies and
you can
gentlemen, I will
exceed it.
conclude.
Thank you.
I should never have been kicked off, and my proposal is, I move that this committee take action and require the chairman to obey the bylaws and repair his breach of contract by returning the standing committees to their original 2020-2022 structure as appointed by Jane Timken and requiring them to elect their own chairman.
Laura,
I
you-
further move this action be voted on by roll call. Thank you.
Well, all right. Again, we're asking members to keep it to 3 minutes. You know, your resolutions have been out for consideration for 10 days. We have a lot to do. These are taking a long time. 3 minutes, we'll cut off your microphone after that, okay? I'm waiting for a second. We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second. The chair recognizes Alex Trantafilo.
I think there's a motion on the table in a second, correct? So that's the discussion.
Yeah, so we moved to discussion, I'm sorry, yeah, we moved to discussion on the
I
motion.
have a different motion. I was going to suggest referring this to committee to take out the members' allegations.
Is there a second for Alex Triantafilou's motion to move the resolution of the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee? Is there a second? Second, okay. Seeing the question has been called, and again, just to reiterate, we are voting on a motion to refer Laura Rosenberger's resolution to the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Nay. Clearly, the ayes have it, and the draft resolution has been referred to the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee. We will now consider a draft resolution submitted by Melanie Lenahan. The chair recognizes Melanie Lenahan to introduce the draft resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, everybody, that I have to do this by phone. So I told them
Can we do the volume on that? Hey, Melanie, hang on a second. We're having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you're on a speakerphone. Yeah, not my volume.
Sorry, get closer to the mic.
Can you get closer to the mic? No.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Barely.
I apologize that I can't hear. I have 3 minutes, so I just first want to stand with Tim and pledge to cooperate and work together toward defeating these Marxists, also known as Democrats these days. Okay. This resolution regarding ORP candidate services is just something I believe to be an important and relatively simple step to improve the credibility of and trust in our organization, the state federal committee or the party, as well as our staff and more importantly our candidates and elected officials. And to provide a more efficient and friendly environment for our internal customers, which is, our staff here and our management, by providing better time processes for everyone to follow. So it's really intended to better legitimize our donations for those individuals we do from any group. The intent is not to come against any candidate, elected official, staff members, any office holder, member of this committee, but rather it's to preserve the public trust that doesn't fall final. So I have no doubt that
the background music.
Melanie, are you still with us there?
I'm here. I
Okay.
think you may be able to hear your
We're having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah. I have no doubt that this resolution will be appreciated by our Republican voters and donors and enhance this committee's ability to achieve and exceed our goals of getting more Republicans elected and attracting more voters and donors to our party, and will help us to be a more effective and efficient organization. And the passage of this resolution will further display to the people of Ohio that we are striving to be more efficient, effective, and ethical, and that those who receive of our donations have received them legitimately and honestly. And I just thank all of you for any conversation about this and consideration of it. Now, Mr. Chairman, since everybody's had this for 10 days, do I need to read it?
No, you don't need to read it. I think we got to thank you, and sorry about the audio problems there. We got you better towards the end. There is a motion has been made for a resolution. Is there a second to the resolution? There's a second.
Mr. Chairman,
The chair recognizes Dave Johnson.
I recommend that we refer this to the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee.
There's a second. Motion has been made to refer the draft resolution of the Permanent Rules and Revision Committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yes.
Well, seeing as though I was a member of the Permanent Rules Committee up until recently, I will share with the committee my opinion here. I've been involved within campaigns around the nation, here in Ohio, doing great work for our president, President Trump, who will be our next winner in 2024. I believe that the party is facing its first real challenge of the modern day post-Trump era. President Trump was very, very gifted in changing our party for us unilaterally. He moved this state from a purple state, a hard purple state, leaning blue in some years, to a solid red state, winning by more than 8 points, and most likely greatly due to our chairman's hard work. But our party is now faced with a new challenge. This challenge is one of contested primaries. We haven't had real contested primaries. Even if you look back to the 2006 contested primary, that wasn't even close, right? That was the last one that was legitimate in our modern day era. We need to be thinking about the way we're going to operate as a body so that we are being fair and representative to all of our voters. By my reading of the rules, and I'm no attorney by any stretch, to play one on TV either, I don't believe that an endorsement of a candidate in 2018 stretches past the point in time when a legitimate candidate like Jim Renacci files against a sitting candidate like Mike DeWine. I don't believe that endorsement transcends that announcement that was made. So when we are now faced with a circumstance where the party is determining what we can do for our candidates when there's a contested primary, you have to look at the bylaws. And the bylaws clearly state that candidate services can only be provided to an endorsed candidate. If you don't believe that Mike DeWine is endorsed right now, as we sit today, then we are not permitted to provide candidate services to that candidate. In my mind, raising money for them, that's a service that we provide to candidates. Providing in-kind contributions, paying for their staff on our payroll, that's a candidate service. I don't believe that in this new era of the Republican Party that we should be providing these services that we used to always do when there wasn't contested primaries. We need to be thinking about that, and we need to make smart choices, and we need to have discussions and not refer them to committee. We need to have that discussion today because everyone's relying on us to be transparent, to follow rules, and to engage. That's what we need to do today.
Any further oh, yes. Gloria.
May I, Mr. Chair? May I be recognized, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, who's on the phone?
This is Melanie Lenny.
Okay.
I'm speaking to that motion. I just feel like I understand the motion to take it to committee. However, this is a very timely issue. We can't take this to committee. That would be very irresponsible. I think we need to decide this now. However it's decided is fine, but it needs to be decided now because it's timely.
Okay. Chairman recognizes Gloria Martin.
I agree with the sentiments of this resolution. I think we need to be very clear in how the party is utilizing the money for these candidates, because it goes back to your point about our purpose here as state central committee members is to win in the November election. And if there is a clear candidate, we want to support that candidate, just like we are for Justice Kennedy for, Supreme Court. That's the purpose of that. But as I see our bylaws, they are vague. It's not giving a timeline of when those services can be utilized. So I think we need to go beyond a resolution for this current election and revise our bylaws to clearly specify when those funds can be utilized, for what candidates, and what sense of endorsement it can be used for.
Thank you, Gloria. Any further discussion? Oh, hang on, over here. Sorry, Jim. Sneaking behind.
I agree with Shannon. I too was removed from the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee without, I even asked Justin why I was, but no response there. But I agree. We keep ignoring our bylaws. And when our bylaws say we don't do this, and we go ahead and do it and justify it, there's something wrong there. Why do we have bylaws if we are not going to follow the bylaws? And I move that we actually do take a roll call vote on this, because I would love to see who's voting against following the bylaws.
Yes. Jim?
Order, if the parliamentarian could please confirm, I'm mindful of the motion that's just been made, what motion is actually on the floor under debate?
The motion that's on the floor, I can do that, Jim. The motion on the floor is to refer the resolution to the Permanent Rules Committee. That's the motion on the floor, that's the discussion. Right, yeah.
You just moved that there be a roll call vote, so is that?
Yeah, no, again, we dealt with the roll call vote issue, it's not happening. Yes, McNulty, Mr. McNulty.
Say a motion on the floor is to refer to the committee.
Correct.
That's a tactic that's been used a few times today already, and it's really just a tactic to avoid facing the issues in front of us. I think we don't send it to committee, we do vote on it. This is the one issue that I signed up for this for. In fact, when Mr. Paducci wanted to be the chairman, he called me. We happened to be at Disney World. We were riding around on a golf cart, and he asked if there's anything I had concerns about. I said, I do not want us to endorse some primaries. I hope you can do that. Mr. Paducci said to me, he said, as a chairman, he said, some things I need to lead on, and some things I need to follow the crew on, follow the committee on. And he said, this is one of those things where I will follow the committee's lead. We need to show some leadership and not just show us off the committee.
We have a motion to call the question. Is there a second? Okay, again, we're voting on the motion to refer the resolution to the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Nay.
Nay.
I think we do a division. How do we do
Division, this is where you send them on each side of the room.
It's not clear to the chair, so I'll call for division of the House. And what we've traditionally done this by is standing up, folks standing up. So all those in favor of referring the resolution to the Rules and Bylaws Committee, please stand up. If you support the motion to refer the resolution to the Permanent Rules and the Bylaws Committee, please stand up.
People waiting. Let's just document who is logged in.
We have 35. The committee is 66. That clearly passes. Thank you. The resolution is referred to the Permanent Rules and Revisions Committee.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We are being harassed by the gallery back here. They are not stopping. They're
voting.
They're voting. It's impossible.
We're going to take a brief recess, and we're going to clear those members that are not elected officials. The elected officials and candidates can stay, but those of you in the gallery creating noise and causing problems, I need to ask you to leave.
What's that lady's name?
We're just asking.
Folks, you need to leave. I'm suspending we're taking a recess until the gallery is cleared.